Good evening, everyone. Today we will continue our sharing on AI and data privacy. As mentioned by Cindy last week, the technology we normally call today as AI can be used for fraud or can, can be used in a specific use case, such as automation on transportation or maybe air traffic. Let's backtrack a little bit on defining artificial intelligence. While a few definitions of AI have surfaced over the last few decades, John McCarthy offers the following definition in his 2004 paper. It is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. It is related to the similar task of using computers to understand human intelligence. On the following slide, we will show you the top 10 Gartner technology trends in 2019. We are not showing the 2023 since the terms are too technical to understand. As you can see, most of these trends are still in progress. Now, as we tag our year as the fourth and fifth industrial revolution, but the buzzword today is Gen AI and the concern of this technology to privacy. Through the emergence of ChatGPT, generative AI has risen on the spotlight. We will not explain the deeper definition of AI on machine learning and deep learning, but we will just differentiate AI into two. One, weak AI, or what we call automation. But nowadays, this type of technology helps companies to automate repetitive tasks, but very minimal decision making, or no decision making at all. This is what we normally call as RPA, robotics process automation. Example and use case for this can be done in manufacturing plants, financial reporting, printing of insurance policies, and so on. While Gen AI is being considered as a strong AI since it recommends and the things in behalf of a human. But let's go back to our topic, data privacy. One of the pioneers of modern data privacy, Professor Roger Clark, coins this four domain privacy, which are territorial, bodily, information, and communication. Territorial can be seen on our constitutional law 1 and 2 on sovereignty. in the Bill of Rights, which is basically limiting the government against the rights of its people. Information and communication are data privacy and cybersecurity concerns. Our basis for both can be seen in Article 3, Section 1 to 4 on the Bill of Rights, but construing against juridical entities, such as corporations and other GOCCs as well. Let's do a reframe of data privacy and focus our attention into the person, you and me. When we talk about privacy nowadays, what comes into mind is data privacy because of the data breaches we are seeing today. And what most people know about data privacy is only contextualized into me as a person and what I post online. So now we transfer our focus on an entity or a corporation. So, what gives a CEO, a CFO, or maybe a CIO gray hair? We can categorize this into five: business continuity, business model, product service development, intellectual property, and government regulations. We have seen this especially on the pandemic, where there were numerous companies closed because they have not addressed their resiliency in business, in supply chain, business interruptions, or maybe cyber attacks. If you don't address these issues on breach management, incident response, and business resiliency, a company nowadays of all sizes, small, medium, or big, needs to address digital transformation, be agile, and needs to act faster to address the needs of its market, and also to comply with regulatory reporting, may it be SEC, DOLE, BAR, or NTC. This is a timetable on the history of data privacy. As you can see, this is not new. The concept of modern data privacy all started in 1890 when both Warren and Brandeis wrote on the Harvard Law Review the right to privacy. But the concept of privacy can be seen on the writings on the common law in the United Kingdom back in the 1600s. We need to take note that there are two different schools of thought on implementing privacy. The US embeds privacy on its provisions, on the different statutes on each state, uh, and on each state, it has different flavors. If you are a practitioner in the US, you need to study every single state regulations, while in Europe, or in other countries also, we are following one single regulation on member states, which our Data Privacy Act of 2012 is patterned. So, what is the right to privacy? According to Justice Brandeis, specifically on the Homestead versus the United States, uh, in the 1928 case, he mentioned the right to be let alone is the most comprehensive of rights and the right most valued by civilized men. We'll not discuss anymore the facts and the issues of that case, but I think you can read on that since this is a landmark case on on privacy and the Bill of Rights. And the next few slides we'll be discussing the basis of the Data Privacy Act. So the Data Privacy Act is not just a special law, but there was a basis on the 1987 Constitution uh, with regards to the Data Privacy Act. So in our in the 1987 Constitution, it was mentioned that the privacy of communication and correspondence is inviolable. So this can be found in Article 3, Section 3, Paragraph 1. Also on the Bill of Rights, specifically on Article 3, Section 1 and 2, actually this is the main basis of the Data Privacy Act. On Section 1, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or shall not any person be denied of equal protection of the law. Palagi natin binabasa yan, di ba? And then also Section 2 on warrant of arrest, because actually the basis of the warrant of arrest, I think, was also based on the 1928 case,
because we follow US jurisprudence also. There is also a basis on our civil code, specifically on Article 26, that provides punishment as actionable towards for several acts of person on meddling, prying into the privacy of another. So you can see on this section that you also have basis with regards to privacy on our private laws, which specifically on our civil code. Our last basis with regards to the Data Privacy Act of 2012 would be GAPEL, so Public International Law. Based on Article 17 on ICCPR, no one shall be subjected to arbitrary and lawful interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor to unlawful attacks on his person and reputation. Everyone has the right to protection of law against an interference or attack. As mentioned on the previous slides, we have uh, we have rights. We have rights as a data subject. When we talk about these subjects, this is us. So when we talk about data privacy, we have adopted the eight universal rights of on data privacy. These are the right to be informed, the right to object, the right to access, and the right to correct or rectify. Also, we have the right to block or remove. We also have the right to data portability with regards to form or channels. It's either website, tablets, or any mobile devices. We also have the right to complain against, for example, a case against, for example, maybe smishing or phishing or whatever. And also, we have the right to be indemnified. So, why is data privacy so important? So, data privacy is not just about regulatory compliance, but when we have uh, issues with regards to data breaches, we're also talking about uh, penalties with regard or imprisonment with regard to data breaches. You also A company also needs to look at reputational damages and financial and criminal damages also. Of course, there would be operational deficiency when we talk about business interruption. In the Philippines, we're the first country who imposed some penal laws with regards to this special law on the Data Privacy Act. So there are penalties for non-compliance. It's either there would be penalties, not just fines, but also imprisonment. So as you can see, this is being segregated into two. So there are unauthorized processing for personal information, and then there's also sensitive personal information. We'll discuss the two separate types later. Uh, but as you can see, there are penal clauses with regards to this law. Uh, but we also have actually there's a new circular which we have adopted this year with regards to admin fees. So the admin fees are basically being patterned on GDPR. So what is being done there is if you don't comply, basically if there's a breach, a company can be fined 2 to 4% of its gross annual income. So let's backtrack a little bit. So back in I think 2017, 2016, The Economist ran an article, and then they mentioned that the world's most valuable resource right now is data, and then they mentioned that data is the new oil. But actually, back in I think 2019, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, mentioned that if data is the new oil, then privacy is the new currency. So let's examine three ways on how data is being monetized today. So we know the business model of Grab and Angkas. even Uber, right? So this company doesn't have a fleet on their own, but they're looking at data so that they can create more efficiencies. So with regards to Netflix, they're also creating new products and services. We can see that on the recommendation engine that when you watch, for example, a specific movie, then uh, that specific they can now do a recommendation. That was, I think, I started by Foursquare. That was bought by Facebook. Another one would be J&J and Nestle. So when they creating new markets, they're also this is a privacy concern because what J&J and Nestle did in Japan is that they get some samples with regards to your DNA because nowadays there's no uh, the gunshot approach in terms of marketing is passe, right? So when we talk about marketing, it's all about personalized marketing. So what they did is they collected some DNAs, and then they typically they say that okay, we'll create uh, a medicine specifically for you so that you can grow older in terms of maintenance. So I think we have seen this in the past. There were some companies who were booming, I think, a few years back with regards to stem cell. So it's the same thing, right? So this is a privacy concern. So we'll give a few examples on the largest data breaches that's happening worldwide. So we have seen data breaches coming from Facebook, not just Facebook, Oxidata, Marriott Hotels when it was bought. Uh, Marriott, Marriott Hotel, the Hilton uh, was bought by Marriott. There was a breach with regards to that also. Uh, Even the Comelec, which normally tech people would call Comelec because of the 42 million data was posted on the dark web. So you can just buy, for example, I think maybe $5 to $10 on a specific data set, right? So um, one recent example would be the PhilHealth and the website in Congress. So PhilHealth has given its statement, but I think the ICT and NPC is doing their investigation with regards to the Medusa ransomware, with regards to PhilHealth. There is also one innovative company that does facial recognition worldwide. This is the top one company that's being used also on various airports worldwide, Germany, US, uh, Australia. Uh, when I was still with an insurance company, I used to be uh, a director there in Sun Life. So we're toying with the idea to get this in terms of this company so that we can use a video KYC on our at both our consumer and advisor app. So, but luckily, we didn't get them because they were hacked. So on the news item, it was about 24 hours. There's about 6.8 million records that was breached, but actually this was just about less than an hour. The National Privacy Commission was not spared also. I think that's what this item was I think 1.5 years ago, 1.5 years ago. So Anonymous did also did this to the National Privacy Commission. As you can see, globally, we are being targeted with regards to cybersecurity, not just the Philippines but globally. But if you look at this table, globally still finance, so banking and finance. But if you look at that, the number one in Japan, medyo iba talaga si Japan is manufacturing because they're the number one company with regards to hardware. But specifically in the Philippines, in APAC, Asia Pacific, we still need to look at finance, banking. So every day there's phishing attacks coming from uh, for all of the banks that we have, BPI, BDO, Metrobank, RCBC, etc. But what is very uh, alarming with regards to APAC, actually this is Philippines and Australia, is about the education sector because this happened roughly before the pandemic kicked in. So people, the hackers are actually looking the at the data and getting the data of our children because typically if your children are studying in an exclusive school, like for example Ateneo, UST, Saint School, Assumption, and so on, normally they would also get information coming from the parents if you are capable to pay or not. So uh, they're going towards the children's data so that they can get the data of the parents also. So this is happening. This is alarming. Actually, 18% in education. Technology would be also data centers for AWS, Google, and so on. Of course, retail and government. In this slide, we'll just wanted to present what PricewaterhouseCoopers has uh, presented on a previous conference. So they mentioned that there's about 3 million data breaches that is happening worldwide today, every day. And then there's about in every second, there's about 35 that's happening. So this is being done on not just on government, not just on field health, uh, and and others, but specifically on small and medium enterprises who don't have that uh, sophistication with regards to uh, cybersecurity hygiene. These are just some news articles. So NPC during the pandemic also issued a code of conduct in terms to guide the schools on online learning because they know that there's also our education sector doesn't have that cybersecurity hygiene. So medyo kulang talaga tayo dyan. So any university or uh, schools are prone to attacks also. Of course, there was also another one. The Rappler did an article with regards to the Stay Safe and COVID Kaya, and some IT expert raised that alarm during the Delta administration with regards to contact tracing. So actually, that company that did that was the company that we represent. The National Privacy Commission has advocacy right now, even before Commissioner Libolo, the former commissioner, left the National Privacy Commission. Uh, this is one of the advocacies that he did. So they shut down online lending companies. The online lending companies right now here is during that time, yung first time na nakita namin yan, there's about uh, I think 400 plus coming from China, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and so on. But majority of those are coming from China. So, and NPC did uh, file some charges with regards to three lending obligations. With regards to these are all China-born companies. Marami pa yan nakikita natin dito sa Philippines. Ganito yung mga text messages na makikita mo when you subscribe to these lending applications. So what normal the normal thing that they do is you need to accept it. So accept the terms and conditions within your mobile phones, and then they can get your contacts, videos, photos, etc. Uh, this is one scam that they do. Pag hindi ka nakabayad, the applications that they have is products that they have are considered to be what they call paid day lending. So within 2 weeks or within a week, uh, they get uh, you need to pay back the loan. So pag hindi ka nakabayad on time, then they would now blast it on your phone. But the problem is on your contacts. But the problem is if your phone that you use, for example, would be ano ba, uh, would be a company phone, then everything on that company phone, they have to will be broadcasted. So there's a case in the National Privacy Commission that was raised by a former HR practitioner. Umutang nagkataon, sinubukan yung lending application na to, and then it was blasted on for about 3,000 people, di ba? Okay. When the National Privacy Commission was just starting, they did some samples. So I think this was in 2018. So NPC ordered Wendy's because and Jollibee to take actions against data breaches. So Wendy's globally had a data breach, and then Wendy's Philippines was affected. On the case of Jollibee, there's no data breach, but uh, they did some sampling with regards to the application of Jollibee during that time. So when you pay with regards to Jollibee, you can get you can see the your credit card number, your personal identifiable number information on that app. So what they did is they reprimanded Jollibee and then they shut down that application. I think for about 4 years. So yeah, ABS-CBN also uh, had had a breach, but eventually I think the CISO and the DPO during that time was very good, so they prevented that. NPC also did some probes with regards to sub-1 million data breach affecting 900 clients. This is a common thing. So with regards to Globe also, uh, the the payroll provider of Globe was sacked because the payroll for everyone uh, was sent out on all of the emails of Globe. So that is also a data breach. So yeah. So normally, what we see every day is that if there is a bad actor that's going towards our data, they can steal identities. They can get a loan, open a credit card, open utility accounts, do refunds, medical care, etc. And then, of course, with regards to the victim, we're also looking at denial of credit loan, denial of public service, harassment by collectors, lawsuits, etc. So we'll just give you a few examples on some cases with regards to two teachers. So one is an example with regards that we are a social media country. Uh, what this teacher did is so basically the fact is basically he during the time I think it's a passport incident. Napakahirap kumuha ng passport. So may time na kailangan kumuha pag nagpa-schedule ka, you have to go to a specific maybe Pampanga or Talbak during that time. Uh, so pinost niya yung passport niya sa Facebook and Instagram. Uh, and then of course, hackers normally scrapes Facebook. So they got that, and then they were uh, the hackers were able to open a credit card, and then nakagastos yata doon ng 500,000 or something, 800,000 I think. So nagkautang siya ng in her name ng 800,000 that teacher didn't know. So that happened. So that was a case also with the National Privacy Commission. There's also one case with regards to uh, uh, the hacker was able to get a loan, which is 1.5 million, and then the teacher was paying for that loan also. So of course, there's also a case in the National Priorities Commission that for this case.
The internet has opened up a world of opportunities for businesses at the cutting edge of technology. We know the world's most high-profile companies.
We know the world's most
inside out.
high-profile companies inside out.
Companies like yours.
Companies like yours.
Who are we?
Who are
Your
we?
worst nightmare.
Your worst nightmare.
In a wave of attacks on businesses worldwide, criminals have launched yet another malicious attack on what I think he's here.
I've got nothing to say.
I think your position's sustainable, sir.
I've got no comments.
I think the shareholders are going to make this
I certainly don't know the full extent of the intrusion.
How long will you be offline?
Do you have systems in place to stop this from happening?
Our security protocols have been breached by what I can only describe as a highly sophisticated cyber attack.
You can't take all the credit. You can't take all the credit. We had a little help from the gym.
Hello.
One of your managers.
Yes, please.
Managers.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jim kindly loaded our keylogger into his PC. Before catching up on some emails. Giving us direct access to his mailbox. Password. Jim's giving us a lot of information. Access to business contacts. Emails from work colleagues. Jim's the outgoing type. Hello, Ali in IT. You look like a privileged user.
Hello. Hi, yes, this is Ali. Hello. Hi, yes, this is Ali. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, no problem.
I think I'm in there. Well, thanks, Sally, for welcoming our custom malware into your system. We're looking forward to working closely alongside you over the next few months. No hurry. We have all the time in the world. No one knows we're there.
We shouldn't be able to reach the live environment from here. Then why complain if we can?
That vulnerability testing doesn't apply to the internal servers. Thought not.
Default password. He forgets to change that.
We have access to all your networks. We're in the database, mapping systems, navigating firewalls across the business. Oh, and did I mention, we're going global on this one.
Je l'enverrai tout de suite. Merci.
Organize the research and development for missile.
Intellectual property, confidential documents, personal and financial data belong to thousands from anywhere in the world. We know your secret.
So how long has this been going on?
He doesn't know what's hit him. Or his
He
business.
doesn't know what's his or his business.
IT are trying to work it out. All systems stay offline for days while they assess the extent of the attack.
PR are working overtime on damage limitation. PR are working overtime on damage limitation. Then there's the emergency board meeting. Then there's the emergency board meeting.
Powerless as the share price falls.
Powerless as the share price falls.
As customers and investors abandon ship,
As customers and
the board
investors abandon
realised
ship,
that the game has
the board
changed.
realised
And thought
the
they knew
game
the
has
risks.
changed. Thought they knew the risks.
How did this happen? Who the hell is responsible? Who the hell is responsible?
Working at the heart of your business has been an invaluable experience.
Has been an
Good to know the door's
experience.
always open.
Good to know the door's always.
So as you can see on that video, that's happening every day. So privacy is now relevant than ever, not just about because of the Data Privacy Act of 2012, GDPR, CCPA of Canada, CCPA in the US, PIPEDA or PDPA in Singapore. So let's do some definition of terms first. So when we talk about data subjects, the data subjects are us. So we are the one being collected with regards to personal information and sensitive personal information. So when we talk about the regulator, in our case, that would be the National Privacy Commission. In EU, there's what they call also a supervisory authority on each of the countries, but there's also a regulatory board with regards to the whole of Europe, which they call EDPU. So uh, in the Philippines also, or what we call personal information controller. These are data controllers. So data controller basically determines the purpose and means of processing. So they collect data. So they are the accountable ones. So any company who has collection of data are the data controller. But when they do when they outsource, for example, the processing of that in terms of collection of data, there would be a data processor also. Like for example, a BPO could be a data processor for a specific controller, for example, for a specific client also in the US or maybe in other countries as well. So that's the main characters in the Data Privacy Act. So the types of personal data that we normally collect would be personal information. A personal information is any information that can identify a person. But we also have sensitive personal information. Sensitive personal information are sensitive in nature, like for example, race, color, political affiliations, religious affiliations, and so on. Uh, Privileged information or privilege are considered as a husband-wife information, a lawyer-client relationship, uh, what else? A doctor-patient relationship also. In the Philippines, we've adopted these basic principles in data privacy, data protection. So, which normally we normally call this TLP: transparency, legitimate purpose, and proportionality. Uh, when we look at transparency, we always, if you've noticed, any company right now are doing uh, data, a data privacy notice, or sometimes they call it data privacy policies, di ba? But we also need to look at the legitimate purpose of that collection. So when if there's no legitimate purpose, like for example, what happened on most of the data uh, contact tracing uh, applications during the pandemic time, because, for example, they can just get data and then afterwards they can use that data also. If there's no legitimate purpose, dapat isa o dalawa lang. But hindi nila nalagay sa privacy policy nila or sa privacy notice, then that is they're violating the Data Privacy Act. Of course, there should be proportionality, so, or what we call fairness. GDPR is called fairness. So, dapat pantay-pantay, di ba? NPC has introduced 5 pillars. They call it these 5 pillars. Some call it 5 commandments coming from the National Privacy Commission. So if you anyone who needs to comply needs to do this. One, appoint a data protection officer once you register to the Data Privacy Commission. Uh, but of course, this is not really, in a sense, in the circulars, this is not really mandated. But this is part of the pillar. But I think there's another circular right now in NPC that they're saying that the data protection officer should be trained and certified as a DPO. Okay. The next one would be to conduct a privacy impact assessment. What is a privacy impact assessment? Basically, it's a risk assessment on all of your assets, not just digital assets, but also your manual assets. So when we talk about manual or systems, uh, we would be talking about what's your risk profile with regards to confidentiality of data, integrity of data, uh, and availability. So plus also the there's also some criteria with regards to the processing of data in the for the National Privacy Commission. So if you're not following that, you're if you're not complying, basically you are violating the law. Okay, so the PIA is not normally being submitted to the National Privacy Commission, but once there is a breach, uh, and then of course if once there's a breach, ito yung unang hanapin sa inyo. There's a format for this on how to do this, but normally there's a risk mapping or a map for that you need to provide for each of the processes that you have. What is being submitted is the what we call a privacy management program, a PMP. So the PMP is like your Bible. So there's also a template coming from the National Privacy Commission for this, but this is supposed to be a workbook or a playbook for you. Okay, and then of course you need to implement your privacy and data protection measures that you have identified on your number two, and then of course uh, do tabletops with regards to some exercises with regards to your business's resiliency and data privacy uh, risks. So, as a data protection officer, normally we have different concerns. So that's why a data protection officer is being a lawyer is also being uh, tapped on this with regards to being a DPO, because uh, a DPO would also need to look at civil law, private laws, and corporate also. Uh, so if you look at this, should be a senior person. This is a chief person reporting to the CEO and to the board. So the stakeholders of DPO would be its employees, customers, suppliers, partners, shareholders, shareholders meeting part of the board, uh, and of course commercial law. So when we look at commercial law, we also look at the strategy of the company. So typically there are just two: how to sustain the company, plus also how to protect the assets. So the assets will be either people, technology, facility, and data. So there's a mandatory legislation with regards to NPC. So these are not N, these are or conditions. So if you have at least 250 employees, you need to register. Or if you handle at least 1,000 records involving sensitive personal information, you also need to register. Maski malita company, I think we have about 1,000 records also. And then the last one would be uh, if you are processing if your processing systems involve automated decision making using a PI or SPI. I think lahat tayo involved naman dito. So anyone who has like an automated test some decision making, like for example Grab, there's decision making for you, di ba? Even for example um, Food Panda, meron din, di ba? So even a small company who uses, for example, CRM or any supply chain systems does that for you. So actually, this is a catch-all for the Data Privacy Act. Actually, this third item is dito pumapasok AI. Okay, so because it's an automated system deciding deciding for the company or for you. Okay, and if you are government, banking, and finance, telco, BPO, education, hospitals, pharmaceuticals, insurance, and brokers, if you're also in pre-need, direct marketing, loyalty programs, you're advised to register also. So this is a relationship diagram that uh, that we don't really normally do with regards to legal. But since the Data Privacy Act was introduced, normally we do this na. Ito hindi man nakikita palagi ng ibang lawyers na don't practice privacy law. Okay, so when we talk about, of course, data subject, this is us, di ba? A PIC, privacy controller, information controller, normally gets information. This is the original entity who decides on the collection, di ba? But if he has a BIP, uh, privacy information processor, so normally this is external to us. So uh, the purpose is this is there should be an instruction coming from the PIC to the PIP. So there should be an outsourcing agreement. So there should be an outsourcing agreement. Some call it DPA, also data processing agreement between the two, or maybe an SLA, service level agreement between the two. But there's also the unique part in our Data Privacy Act is there's a data share agreement. So if there's another entity that is different purpose on the PIC, there should be a data share agreement between the two. So for example, if you buy a ticket in PAL, normally PAL would also, for example, on the travel agency needs to book you on an airline, right? And then there would be an insurance also, and then there would be a payment provider, for example, a bank or maybe Visa, Mastercard, a payment provider. So kailangan may data sharing agreement yun. So we call that as a joint controller or a third party, because at the end of the day, the accountable with regards to your data, if there would be a breach that will be happening, is the PIC. Okay. So yeah. So here, these are the things that we need to look at. So as I mentioned kanina on the penalties has a criteria also. So if you're not doing consent, so these are the a few criterias on which you can also see on the implementing rules and regulations of the Data Privacy Act. If you look at this, uh, consent of individual to process their personal data. If there is no consent form or a waiver, then we are violating. If there's no legitimate interest also of the organization on the third party engaged, then there's also a breach that will be happening. Okay, if there's no contractual necessity, processing is needed in order to enter into a perform contract, then this is justified, di ba? So, may legal obligation by the interest, and there's no public interest. So, if you look at the public interest, if normally there's an exception, if it's a matter of life and death, if there, tinanong ito with regards to the pandemic during that time, parang, if it's a matter of life and death, kailangan ko bang kumuha pa ng data privacy notice, etc. If there's a matter of life and death, there's an exception. You don't need to. But if it's not a matter of life and death, then you need to get that information. So, kailangan mo pa rin ng ng information ng patient. Di ba? So, as a last slide, normally we present this as a 10 step on how to do your compliance. So, aside from the 5 pillars, as consultants also for this type of compliance on different companies. What we suggest, of course, you appoint a BPO which is certified. If you need certification programs, you go to a certification provider. So that. And then, of course, you also have to maintain a data register, so a personal information register, not just for your employees, for your partners, customers, all of the stakeholders that you could identify. And then, of course, you need to notify the purpose and seek consent. So that is very important. And then next would be the respond when the subject ask about his personal data. So when we talk about that, we also need to look at your PIA, your risk profile. So any company should do that. Small, medium, big companies. Okay, and then you on your risk profile, you also need to enforce security mechanisms. So when we talk about security mechanisms, these are what we call OPD. Ito yung mga control measures natin. So organizational, that can be policy, physical measures also, can be data centers or facilities, di ba? Badges, etc. And of course, there will be technical measures. And then we also need to embed privacy into your systems and processes. So we need to look at what we call privacy by design. But we also need to look at not just privacy by design, but also security by design. Okay. We also need notify for data breaches and then manage our third parties, which is palagi natin makakalimutan yan. And then protect data when transferring overseas. This is what we call cross-border data because nowadays we are a global company. Even a small company, a startup, does this also. So, for example, if you're an app developer here, you also have a data center, for example, in AWS in Singapore, but you market it, for example, in Dubai, for example. So, there's territorial. The laws with regards to data privacy is territorial in nature, as we have seen in the general rules in criminal law. But there's also extraterritorial. So, but that's not included on the Data Privacy Act of the Philippines right now. But normally we do that with regards to cross-border by means of some treaties on APEC, CBPR, cross-border rules that we are part of also. So you also need to communicate your data privacy and policies and practices and processes to your clients and different stakeholders. So that ends my presentation, and then I'll give you the presentation to the next reporter. Thank you.